Three top White House nominees for DHS will prioritize cybersecurity initiatives if the Senate confirms them. The confirmation hearing for the three nominees happened just a couple of weeks after several high-level cyber attacks. Chris Cummiskey is CEO of Cummiskey Strategic Solutions. He's former acting undersecretary at DHS. Chris, welcome. It's great to see you again. What did you take away from their hearing? You obviously on LinkedIn endorsed these three nominees as eminently qualified for their jobs. What was your takeaway from the hearing and what they bring to the department?
Well, thanks for having me. I think that the most important thing that came out of the hearing was the heavy focus on cybersecurity. Not all those positions have direct authority over that particular set of issues, but the one thing that did come through from the deputy secretary, the head of policy, and the general counsel positions was all a focus on cybersecurity and making sure the department's ready to handle the challenges ahead.
One of the things that I've talked to a number of current former DHS officials about over the years, I don't mean to put words in your mouth, not inferring these were your sentiments, but the issue is over the years has been whether Congress is asking the right questions about cyber. Are we there yet? Is Congress asking the right questions in confirmation hearings and in other settings about the cyber posture of the federal government and its interaction with the private sector?
I think they're much more attuned to it now on the Hill than they have been in past cycles. This time around, the members were very active. The staff is highly prepared to engage in this dialogue. And the fact that you have a series of high-profile cyber attacks certainly is, I think, pushing this dialogue along. So that every nominee of the 20 at DHS who require Senate confirmation are probably going to be asked about cybersecurity.
What are the right things for Congress to focus on that maybe it's not right now? Obviously, there are the high-profile incidents, the issues about CDM and all those kinds of things. Is there something out there, though, that maybe they're not focusing on that they should?
Well, I think certainly the major programs of record, CDM and Einstein, are the two big cyber programs at DHS, about $1 billion between them in annual spending. But beyond that, I think it's really this notion of communication and coordination with the reestablishment of the White House cyber position, as well as a new deputy at the National Security Council focused solely on cyber. You've got a lot of chefs in the kitchen mixing this up. And so I think one of the things you're going to find that the deputy secretary and certainly the head of policy at DHS are going to have to spend their time on is this coordination among the major players, not only at the White House, but the FBI, NSA, and other major players.
That's a good thing about having a national cyber director, though, isn't it, Chris? That's that person's primary responsibility, and that's what that person will be charged with, making sure that all those chefs are cooking the right dishes, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And so you've got to have people on the receiving end of that as well. And so having folks in senior levels, not only at DHS, but across the interagency, makes it more likely that they'll be successful in responding to these attacks.
So you mentioned something that I think is interesting. These nominees that we're talking about, you can read more about them at govmatters.tv/resources. They're not all three of them directly responsible for cyber. They don't have cyber written into their job descriptions. But cyber's really written into, in some form, the portfolio of everybody in high-level management at DHS now, isn't it?
Yeah, that's really a good point. I think that there's finally a recognition that everyone's got a hand in this. And so whether you're the chief operating officer, which is the deputy secretary, the general counsel, or the head of policy, you're going to have a hand in this across DHS and the 240,000 people that work for the department. And so I think that's really going to be in the forefront for every person. And when I say it's an all hands on deck approach, as I've said in the past, I really believe that's going to be the case this time.
What do these roles look like, and what does an organization like CISA look like 2 years from now, halfway through the Biden administration, or at the end of the Biden administration, the first term at least, in 2024, 25? What do those organizations look like? How do they mature in your view?
Well, and that's a really good question, because CISA is only really 2 years old since its inception. And so I think if you look into the future, it'll be much more muscular in terms of regulatory oversight responsibilities, working with the TSAs who just recently issued pipeline guidance and requirements, and across the 16 critical infrastructure sectors. I think you're going to see CISA be much more active, utilizing the authorities that they've been given in recent years by Congress. And that's going to mean having oversight from internal functions as well, like the deputy secretary, legal counsel, and the chief of policy, in this case, Rob Silvers, who has a long history of working on cyber issues. So I think you're going to be seeing a much more aggressive stance coming out of the agencies in the federal government that deal with this directly.
And that coordination that we talked about with the National Cyber Director, it strikes me, is important for all of these people within DHS too, because you mentioned the TSA Pipeline Authority, CISA exists, there's the DHS CIO that has oversight over the agencies, there's the individual component agencies, operations and all of that. There's a lot of cybersecurity, Secret Service, there's a lot of cybersecurity happening a lot of different places all across this agency, right?
That's absolutely true. And the way you maximize effectiveness is to really get all of those agencies and component heads and the headquarters working in concert with one another. So that's going to be a big part of it, is making sure that CISA's guidance is being implemented by the DHS CIO, that the Secret Service in their efforts around cybersecurity are coordinated. And so it's really a big task for these three nominees, as well as the others that will be coming down the pipe.
Chris Cummiskey, thanks very much as always. Great to have you back on the program.
Thanks, Francis.